Welcome to the Find Your Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Alex Hoynatska, a breathwork facilitator, a functional nutrition guide, and nervous system expert. I am so passionate about rewiring your survival patterns so that you can finally live free. This podcast will cover topics around neuroscience, nervous system healing, brain rewiring, and really anything that helps us get back to our truest form. The goal here is to live life on our own terms, to live an embodied life. This is where your most authentic self comes to life, and I am so happy you're here. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Find Your Freedom podcast. This will be another solo episode, but I am very excited because I just locked in 2 guests to come on to the podcast, and I'm brewing some fun conversations up. So excited about those. Today's episode will be around a topic that is near and dear to my heart. This is something that I've always been passionate about ever since I was a little girl. I've always been into whatever spirituality meant for me at the time. It's obviously evolved massively since I was younger, but I've always had an interest in the world beyond the world that we can witness and see. And I don't know whether I was just born that way. I think that's the case, because from a very early age, I was perceptive of energies and had really vivid dreams, and interesting things would happen to me. And I'll share a little bit more about what those were. I'll share some examples. I can be here all day, but yeah, I think one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation is because I've been doing a lot of nervous system work on myself, but also coaching others through the State Shift program, coaching people through one-on-one coaching. And at the end of the day, nervous system regulation really comes down to safety in your body and trusting yourself and trusting your experience. And a big part of that is if you believe in something bigger than yourself. And, we could have this argument around, there are lots of people who live in their heads a lot. And I am very guilty and have been very guilty of this too, being very intellectual, right? I, for a long time, went through a phase where I was like, I'm too smart for spirituality. I'm too smart for this. If it doesn't make logical sense to me, then no, this is all a bunch of like hocus pocus. And then I got to a place where I bridged that gap between my head and my heart. And there's something very real about that in nervous system work as well. Even though everything that we do is rooted so much in neuroscience, it is also work in trusting your environment, and part of your environment is things you can't see or explain, and that experience for some people is more real than others. And for me personally, that relationship with the unseen world has been very, very big. So anyway, back to where I'm at in just starting Detox House and doing the work that I've been doing, guiding people through nervous system regulation, rewiring, through breath work, through cold plunges, and holding space for emotional release and mastering your emotions. It's really been very clear to me the delineation between how far you can go with nervous system regulation and emotional mastery when you have a spiritual practice. And that looks different for everybody, by the way. I'm not preaching one specific practice. I'm just sharing that believing in something more than all of this is important, in my opinion. And I will share what that looks like for me, but by no means this is like a prescriptive approach. It's it's very unique per individual based on your experiences, your identity, your personality, your upbringing. All of those things can shape our spiritual practice. And again, this isn't preaching one way or another. It's just saying there's something bigger than all of this, and that's where it stops. And then whatever that looks like for you, that's where, that's your own journey. And maybe you can relate to some of the things that I'll share in this episode. So in November of last year, well, now we're at the beginning of the year, November, just a few months ago, I went on a retreat to Mexico. It was a nervous system reset retreat. And I knew that coming into this retreat was going to be, very rooted in science, which again, my analytical brain loves. It's really great for validating what actually happens to our brain and our body chemistry during practices like breath work, like cold plunge, like Temazcal ceremonies. And to be honest with you, in full transparency, I've always had this chip on my shoulder of I need people to know how smart I am, or I need people to know that I'm sound and I'm not crazy. So everything needs to be rooted in science so that this feels very palatable for people, and I'm not just like this, woo-woo crazy girl that's lost her mind. That is something that this idea of that is definitely something that I've been working through 100%. And I'm sharing that in a very vulnerable share of like, that is definitely a shadow part that I have that I've spent a lot of time working through and just being comfortable with that part. And I definitely see why that part of me exists. There's definitely a lot of reasons for that, and it makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, I need to also embrace my truth. And instead of trying to prove something to somebody else, I really need to just prove it to myself and really just be okay with exactly who it is that I am. And that's where we work to build safety in our bodies, to be authentically us, 100% authentically us. So anyway, back to the retreat. I was going and I knew that this retreat was so rooted in science, so rooted in neuroscience. And, again, part of me loves that. I want people to think I'm smart and I'm grounded and this stuff is real and it should be taken seriously. And that is true. And it should be taken seriously. And this is rooted in neuroscience. And there's real proof behind a lot of what we discuss. However, what my soul, what my authentic self really loves and craves is the spiritual and energetic aspects to all of this. The mystical. The things that science has just not caught up with yet. It's not that, that this isn't science or this isn't scientific. It's just that, first of all, a study costs at least $1 million to run. And there has to be some incentive to run studies. So while we can say, that there's no like data behind that. Yeah, who's going to run the data behind it? Who's going to study this? Who's going to study, maybe there are some people, and I know there have been studies around this, but it's like also not as like cut and dry as like, we just need proof. But there is an inner knowing. The things that science hasn't caught up with yet, even though again, it's getting there, the things that we cannot quite explain, but we know are there. I freaking love the magic, and I need to let go of trying to prove something that I'm not. I am this person who magic is literally one of my values. It's just my truth. And in trying to understand my truth, I get why that is. It's because of the experiences that I've had since I was a kid. As early as 8 years old, I had mystical experiences that neither myself nor anyone, and trust me, some of these mystical experiences have happened to me when I was older, and I called my therapist and was like, please explain this to me Like, let's work let's work together to figure out like how this could have happened. And there was zero explanation of why I could have experienced this. Basically, my therapist's response was, some people do a lot of drugs to be able to get to where you got to. So like, you should consider yourself lucky. I do, because these mystical experiences have given me this insane amount of trust and safety in our experience here on Earth that like I feel is such a gift to nervous system regulation, and is such a gift to trusting this whole experience, and trusting myself, and trusting my body, and trusting that things will be okay no matter what. So yeah, things definitely happened to me that made me question what was real and what wasn't. And you can't really gaslight yourself. I mean, you can. A lot of people do it, and I've done it in the past too, but it's not really that healthy. Ignoring your experiences, ignoring your truth is really not healthy. It will catch up to you. The body keeps a score. You can't deny what you've seen. You can't deny what you've experienced. I mean, I've definitely tried to push it out and be like, okay, I live in a 3D world. Like, that didn't make any sense to me, so I'm just going to ignore it. I tried, and then it would get louder. So yeah, taking inventory of these situations over time has gotten me to a place where I'm like, okay, my experiences are real, and no, I'm not losing my mind, and no, there's nothing wrong with my brain, and no, I'm just not super imaginative. Like, the collection of these mysterious moments led me to a very deep knowing that there is something bigger behind this 3D experience. And I wanted to explore what was behind the veil. And this curiosity led me down to a spiritual path, a path where I would devour all the books, all the podcasts, attend all the retreats, meet the healers, the wise mentors, and explore the mystical side of our world to try to understand it. And of course, always weave that into, our practices here in nervous system regulation, in neuroscience. And I think they're very related. And I think that this had a big impact on regulating my nervous system. I mean, in some cases, dysregulating my nervous system. Again, when you're experiencing something that like doesn't make sense to you, you can get very dysregulated. But again, afterwards you realize like, wait a second, there's just so much more to what we're seeing here. So what does it mean to be spiritual? In the dictionary, the word spiritual means to be concerned with the human spirit or soul rather than material or physical things. Additionally, it states that it's a belief in or a sense of connection to something greater than oneself. So, problem with both of these statements and definitions, and I'll tell you why. For me, by the way, this is all based on my experience, right? So I definitely think there's a notion and judgment in that someone spiritual is someone who should not attach themselves to 3D material things. Like, practicing non-attachment is like the most quote unquote spiritual thing you can do. But what if we're not attached, right? What if we're just seeing the beauty in everything, that there is God in everything, even in the designer handbag or the leather wallet, and that you just want to have the experience of owning it, or you just want to have the experience of these materialistic things, or you're here on earth to, try the good wine and seeing the beauty in it, and the time and the effort that it took to get that glass of wine to you in this glass so you can taste it on your lips. I mean, that is a spiritual experience to me. Seeing the beauty in those things is very spiritual. And so the sense of connection to something greater than oneself is also an interesting idea too. I 100% believe in something greater than myself. I was sold on the idea that no one could be spiritual if they didn't have this belief. But then someone did come into my life that challenged this view. So I did date somebody who was, I think he would probably, I don't want to put any labels on him, but he did not really believe in anything bigger. He believed that we were just here to have an experience, and when we die, there is nothing. And when I just observed this man in the wild, I was like, this is so interesting. It was such an interesting experience to see him be in awe of everything, but the awe that he had was because he thought we had such limited time here. He was a really analytical thinker, so definitely somebody that was always looking for proof. And I would observe him because I was like, well, why am I drawn to this person? Because I normally, don't really vibe with people that are so anti something bigger than all of us. And I thought, okay, maybe this is just a learning experience for me. But I was witnessing him be, like I said, in constant awe and wonder of life because it was so finite and limited that it was causing him to experience the magic. It was just for a different reason than what I was, how I was thinking about it. But our experience was the same. We'd go hiking here in Nashville and I would watch his childlike wonder and think to myself, man, this guy is so spiritual and so genuine about it. We had the same experience of nature, but for very, very different reasons, right? I'm sitting there thinking oh my God, there's such a connection to me with nature. And I can literally touch a tree. I could touch a tree and close my eyes and see all the patterns and connect with the energy of that tree and just feel so rooted and grounded to the environment around me. And I think his experience was this is so cool. I only have X amount of years to be on this planet. I should cherish this experience as much as possible. Therefore, I'm in so much awe of just being able to be here and do this with you. So it was the same thing from different lenses. So yeah, I'm, at this retreat in Mexico, by the way, and I'm on my flight home listening to the Diary of the CEO podcast with Tim Ferriss. And Tim Ferriss is definitely this guy that I was dating probably would have aligned with, even though I don't know too much about Tim Ferriss. But Tim said something that really struck me. He thinks that we can be super happy without religion, but we cannot be happy if we lack awe and wonder. And I was like, oh, I totally get it now. This guy was agnostic or didn't believe in anything bigger, but he had so much awe and wonder in the world because it was so finite to him. And I think my definition of spirituality meant having an access point to a world beyond our senses and having an access point to the divine. It meant a path to a greater understanding of why I'm here. That's always been the case. And by the way, that is still the case for me, but I don't know if it's necessarily the case for everyone else. And I think maybe spirituality is just having wonder and awe in the world, and it doesn't matter why you have that. For me, it's a bit different, and I'll share why. Again, I keep alluding to these mystical experiences that happened to me, and I've had many. I've had many mystical, undeniably so experiences. So for me, spirituality is my connection to the divine in myself and in all that exists around me. So I believe we are source. And whether you want to call source God, I like calling it source. I believe that we are source experiencing itself. And this is all just an experience. And it is, well, I have to give Jess credit for that. So my friend Jess passed away when she was only 37 years old. And it was a big, marker in my life, losing one of my best friends, somebody that I would consider a sister. And she actually came to me in a dream after she passed, which I would consider one, very spiritual, mystical experience, but you could argue not because it was in a dream. So don't worry, I have better examples if you're thinking oh, you're just dreaming, but it was what you would call a visitation. And she came to me in a dream and said, hey, everything is okay. This is all just an experience. And so that definitely hit me, left me with it lasted here in my heart. And I know and I believe that source is an energy of pure unconditional love. So some people like to imagine it as like God, and some people put a gender to it. Some people view it as like God the Father. I think a lot of people maybe put a feminine gender on it, maybe like more like Mother Earth type of vibes. I don't have that view. I think of it as just pure energy. It's doesn't abide by 3D laws. And so it's just a pure energy of unconditional love, and it's pure oneness with all of things. I don't believe that I need to lock myself away or meditate all day to be connected to the source. I think I can integrate this connection into my everyday life. I don't believe I need to feel pure love 100% of the time either. In fact, I think the reason why we're here on earth is to experience the full spectrum of what earth has to offer, which is both love and a disconnection from love, the light and the dark. It's the plane of polarity. We live on the plane of polarity, and we're here to experience that, because when we are, when we're more connected to that unconditional love, that's like all we can feel. There's a great little YouTube video. It's called The Little Soul. It's a parable, I guess. It's a great illustration of this concept of this beautiful little soul being so connected to source, living in pure heaven, pure delight, unconditional love, and asking source, God, is there more? Is there more than this? Like, this is great. Like, this is so beautiful. It's so divine. But is there a different experience? And source says, yes, there is an experience that's disconnected from me. There's disconnected from love. And you can experience all sorts of emotions, right? Like the agony and the ecstasy and the agony, the joy and the pain, the grief, all of that. It's like the full spectrum of human emotions. And the little soul says, well, great. I kind of want to see what that's like. So let's experience being human. And I believe that's why we chose to be here, is to have this experience. And I do also believe that we very well chose the people that we decided to have this experience with. That means we chose our parents, we chose our caregivers, we chose our soul family. I believe that in my heart of hearts. Whether I can prove that or not, obviously not. So it is just an inner, very deep knowing. It's a truth that just like resonates in every single cell of my body. And yeah, going back to like this connection to source, I know we have tools like meditation and prayer that connect us with source, with love, every day as a reminder. However, it's not there to take us away from the earthly experience at all. I don't think you have to live like a monk in order to feel it. I don't think you need to even I know some people love to go on, week-long retreats, and I have been, by the way. I feel like that is a gateway and a portal, and it's a reminder. And I definitely think there are people that have come here to live like monks and to create that energy in the world, and it's beautiful. But I do think that everybody has their own individual soul plan, and everybody is on their own journey, and you do not need to run away from the earthly experience. You do not need to disconnect from the earthly experience to be able to feel source, to be able to feel this unconditional love in your everyday. I want to experience that connection to the divine while, checking out at Whole Foods or watching a good movie or bowling or, experiencing the world. I want to be in the world, but not of it. So I do believe we are here to feel it all, the full spectrum of human emotions. And that's where this belief system really helps my nervous system regulation. So if I'm feeling dysregulated, and if I'm feeling really triggered, activated, angry, sad, grieving, whatever it is, this deep inner knowing that I have, this belief of I am here to experience this, makes it easier. It does. If you really believe that, then you can observe yourself versus getting absorbed into the experience, versus getting caught up in the experience. You can just say, oh my gosh, it's Alex just feeling these things. How beautiful is it that she gets to experience this? And I know that's really hard to think about when you're dealing with some really fucked up moments. And trust me, pardon my French, but I've dealt with some fucked up moments, I've had some very close people die. and they died way too young. I've witnessed some things that I wish, I didn't have to witness. And I understand how difficult and cruel and dark life can be. But I also know that if you believe or choose to believe that we're actually here to experience the full spectrum of human emotions, and that when you leave this human body, you don't get access to that at all, that while things may be grueling and agonizing at times, it's just an experience. And during these grueling and agonizing moments is when we really need this reminder of our connection to pure love and unconditional love. At those times, it's literally always in us. We just need to remember it. And having this belief system immediately helps me regulate my nervous system and find that smooth landing. That doesn't mean I don't get to experience the emotions, right? Like when I get angry and I'm just like, I need to punch a pillow, I need to yell and scream. And something that I talk about in the state shift is emotional release. So we have a whole, depending on how the group goes, sometimes it's 1 week, sometimes it's 2 weeks of emotional release. There's no judgment. There's no shame about feeling angry and sometimes even rageful. I mean, I have been in full-on rage at some people who have done me wrong and treated me in certain ways. Even when I realize that everything is a mirror, even when I realize, yes, I contribute to these dynamics, I'm still fucking mad and I'm still going to experience what my human wants to experience, which is this anger and this rage, and I'm going to let it out in healthy ways, right? I'm going to scream in my car, not at anybody, but just in my car. I'm going to punch a pillow. I'm going to go run. I'm going to go boxing. I'm just going to let it out of my body and just let it move through me and then let it go. But having this belief system makes it so much easier to get to the other side, right? You don't get stuck in these loops as much. You don't get caught up in these feelings as much when you realize it's like, oh my God, this is just an experience. We're in this process of remembering and forgetting constantly, remembering that we are here for a reason to experience this, remembering that we can find relief when we want to through that connection to source that is always there. And I've experienced that. I've experienced it coming out of nowhere. Like dark night of the soul, me down on my knees, crying in my bedroom because I am so distraught. Specifically, this was when my best friend died. A few years prior to her dying, I lost an ex-boyfriend and he took his own life. And I was just in this place where I was like, why are we here? Why did my friends suffer? Why did people I love suffer? Why did I have to witness that? Why did I have to watch that? This is so messed up. And I was just in agony and I was down on my knees, just praying to source, asking my higher self, please help me. I feel so dark right now. And I felt this unconditional love, sense of relief. I felt this wise voice come down and just give me what I needed to hear in that moment. And you can just tell when it's your voice and when it's this wisdom that's beyond you. And some people call that channeling, and you can just hear it. And it just is such a relief. And it's a remembering of oh, right. Okay. All right, I got this. The more we remember, the easier life gets. It becomes more joyful and fun. And it's just important for us to remember these tools too, to remember that all we have to do is just ask. Ask for it, whatever your practice is, whether it's your higher self source, whatever it is, if you just want to ask nature, again, when you're feeling that dysregulation, walking in nature, a meditation, a breathwork session, a cold plunge, a long hug, those are all connection points. Those are all connection points to the divine and to remembering. And yeah, accessing our childlike wonder and awe in our everyday is the most spiritual thing that we can do. And it is literally the best thing you can do for your nervous system. Imagine the person living with wonder and awe. What do you think their nervous system is like? It's creative, it's expressive, it's grounded, it's grateful. And that's a really beautiful place to create from. So I really do think we need to think about spirituality as it relates to nervous system health, nervous system regulation, because again, just to tie a bow on all of this, I feel like the safety, the trust piece, you can only go so far trusting in yourself. And then it becomes I give it up to source. I give it up to my higher self. I give it up to something bigger than me. And that surrender and that letting go is so freeing. It's so like, can you just imagine the shoulders relax, jaw unclenches. Like, I don't have to do this alone. This isn't about me forcing, fighting, and doing this alone. This is about me working, co-creating with the universe, with some fucking universal magic that I know exists. So before I end this episode, I know I've alluded to mystical experiences that have happened to me. So I know you guys will be wondering. So I'll share some. I mean, it's from an early age. I definitely witnessed ghosts and things in the house that I lived in that were not normal, that were paranormal. I witnessed some experiences where I felt somebody touch my face at night. Needless to say, the house that I lived in was haunted. And at that point, I didn't really understand. And I don't think that those were kind of like, unpleasant experiences. And when you're a kid, it's just very disorienting. I just refused to sleep in my room. And then when we moved into my new house, I remember telling my mom, I'm like, oh my God, I finally feel alone. And she was like, oh, that's so crazy. Like, I mean, I always told her I didn't feel alone in our old house. So yeah, those were some of the like less fun mystical experiences, I guess, like the ghost stuff. I'm sure, I mean, not everybody has a ghost story, but I definitely have those and I've definitely seen them. And it's really jarring and not pleasant and pretty scary, even though I don't think, now that I have an understanding of what those things could be, and that's a whole other episode of like what ghosts actually are and why they're here and why we're experiencing them. But definitely have had those experiences where I've seen ghosts. I lived in a house in San Francisco. There was a ghost, and I feel like the ghost was very protective of me. So they're not always bad. And yeah, there was definitely times where like I would get like a little heart, like I would find a little heart in my bed, and I couldn't figure out where it came from. And anyway, little weird things like that from that particular experience where I'm like, oh, okay, this is interesting. Like maybe the ghost is just super protective. But it never feels good when you don't feel alone in your home. I like the feeling of like, okay, I'm in my house and I for sure feel 100% alone, and that makes me feel really, really good. So those are just some examples. I think a lot of it really came to a head when my ex-boyfriend had passed away. And I think when you lose a loved one, you automatically almost like shift in consciousness and awareness, and you're more connected to the other side because they're trying to connect with you. And so I had some experiences of him that if you know, you know. So I'm happy to talk about it offline. They're pretty personal and deep, but basically communication points between, our loved ones from the other side definitely happened with both him and my friend who had passed a few years later. Definitely have had experiences with like dreams that became very real, where you would feel things actually like physically. So it no longer, it lives in the head. It then gets physical, where you feel somebody like touching your face at night or something. I already mentioned that. Then there was a time where I witnessed things in the room, like again, open eyes, not on any drugs, totally sober, not half asleep, like totally awake, and witnessed light things, light beings. And yeah, maybe they're ghosts, still trying to figure out an explanation for exactly what I witnessed. But again, ultimately just coming to this realization that there's just so much more than what we see, and then there's so much more to this world, and I'm still in process of developing a clear understanding of what that is and what it might be. And I have some ideas and thoughts, which are a whole other episode. But the whole point of this episode is this like rooting into this belief that there's something outside of all of this, and there's a bigger plan, and there's a bigger purpose, and there's definitely an element of like, you don't have to try so hard. You can relax because you're so guided and protected and you're taken care of. And actually, I do really want to share one story that just recently happened to me that I think is a bit mind-blowing. It blew my mind. So I decided to get PRF. For anybody who doesn't know what that is, it's when they take your blood, they spin it around, they create like a coagulation of your blood. It's like a gel, and they inject it into your face, and it's supposed to make you look younger. And I am trying to do things as like, I'm trying to age gracefully but naturally. Nothing wrong with Botox or any of those things. Everyone's on their own journey with it. But right now, where I'm at is like not doing any of that and trying everything naturally. So I decided I wanted to get PRF because it's just my own blood. So I'm driving down there to this dermatologist office to get this done. And I say a prayer to my body, to my higher self, to source, and say, please protect me in this practice. If it's not meant for me, like if this is not going to be a good outcome, or if it's going to be detrimental, and it's not going to be beneficial for me, make it like go wrong, like not go wrong, sorry, make it not happen. Make sure it doesn't happen. Do something where it doesn't happen. Like I'll give it up to you. You take care of me. I can't figure out how it will evolve, but if it's really not good for me, make sure you stop it. And I pray this to higher self, to source, 100% divine light. And I get there, and the nurse comes in to take my blood, tries 4 times, different arms, can't get any blood out of me. And she's just like, are you dehydrated? Okay, maybe you're dehydrated. She gives me some water. We wait. I think she's also now a little worried because she definitely tried a lot, and she's like, I don't know what's going on, but maybe you're just dehydrated. So the doctor then sends another nurse in, and this is now after I chugged an entire bottle of water. Mind you, I have never had an issue giving blood before. So then the other nurse comes in and does the same exact thing, tries, no blood's coming out. And she's just like so stunned because she's like, I don't understand. I'm literally in your vein and nothing is coming out, just like in your vein. And I'm like, okay, interesting. And I'm like, you know what? Let's just give it another go. Let's try the other hand. Tries the other hand, and she's just like, I see her face. She's almost just like, what the hell? And she's like, I don't think we can do this today. And I'm just like, this is exactly the sign that I needed. My body refused to bleed. It refused to bleed. It listened to my message. It was protecting me. And I walked out of there and I was like, okay, that was not meant to be whatsoever. And fun fact, I got my blood work taken the next day because I was getting like routine blood work done and had no issues getting blood work. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. That was literally just protection. So again, I think there's all these ways that source, the universe, again, whatever you want to call it, protects us in these moments, whether you believe it or not. I mean, I can't explain it. I mean, yes, sure, sometimes it happens where your blood doesn't flow, but it was really fucking weird for her to be in my vein and my body not to be bleeding at all. And the next day I had no issues doing that. And there was obviously an ask from me, please stop this if it's not meant for me. So you explain that. I mean, yes, you can explain it in many ways, or you can just ignore it. If you choose to ignore it, I don't think you're living in a world where you're in awe and wonder. And I think, again, regardless of your spiritual beliefs, living in wonder and awe leads to ultimate happiness. So I leave you with that, and I hope you have a lovely day.